Welcome to the Midwest Moguls Show, where we talk all things business, real estate, and entrepreneurship. Let's dive into today's episode and make business enjoyable again.
Welcome back to the Midwest Mogul Show. We have Joshua, Jensema, Heavy D, Loda in the studio again for repeat visitors, basically our go-to podcast guests. Welcome back, y'all. Okay, let's get into it. So Derek was talking about BK. Have it your way.
No, we're not. Yeah, we won't go there.
Why not? What's up? Okay, so you guys.
Hey, they're gonna build that new development down by Burger King.
So I saw that. Then they're tearing a place down, the old chapel on Knapp Street.
Yeah,
I don't know if you saw that. I don't know what that's turned into.
Isn't that like the school?
Yeah, it was a school there.
What's going on with that old church on Jackson?
Yeah. Did you drive by that on the way here?
Is that getting like redone or?
I think it's being torn down.
Yeah.
It's like everything's gutted out.
Dude, they're going major right now in town on various things. Like both of the Washington schools being tore down.
Mm-hmm.
They tore down
Rip your tax bills.
Yeah, Merrill.
No shit.
Dude,
Well,
the referendum passed 197 million.
That's
It's a
insane.
lot
Good,
of-
dude. I'm
lot of
glad
cash.
we
Yeah.
got through the school system, and then they
No
decided to put
shit.
300 million in circulation.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
So what do you guys like?
Fails to meet most basic expectations.
Yeah.
So on the most recent report card, I think so. It's working. Shit, let's make it 450.
I know. So what do you think about that? Like, would you? I don't know. Like, you're not a resident of Oshkosh anymore, are you?
I am right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did you vote in the?
Yeah, I voted.
So what'd you vote for?
I didn't vote for the referendum to go through for
Okay,
the
that's
money
what
because I just think they just built two really nice schools.
Yeah.
And I think
Way over budget.
way
by the
over
way.
budget, way over budget. And I think too, like with the onset of what AI will do, I think I don't think those investments will be worth it. And I think a lot of people are going to look at this and be like, oh, well, we need to invest into our
Pull the mic
future. And
closer.
yeah, we need to invest in the future and in the education for these kids. I think there's so many other things that the city needs to work on before that with their own leadership and in the direction of Oshkosh that they need to go. I think that there's a lot of opportunities for education to expand. Like we were sitting at the coffee shop today for like 3 hours prompting AI to give us responses as if it was basically
Pirates.
a future version of, as pirates.
Yeah.
As a future version of yourself. So like
That's
you can ask it and
interesting.
say, Derek taught me this, so give him the credit on this. But we're sitting there and he kind of showed me a prompt. And on his prompt, he said, I want you to be a 9-figure entrepreneur.
Yep.
And I want you to tell me exactly how you would do this. You have X amount of years. You basically label the AI.
Yep.
And then it will assume the label that you give it. And what's crazy is you plug this stuff in and it'll spit back these really complex answers, like stuff that you would be like, holy shit, this is really, it's at a high level, like as if it were actually that. And it was funny because we're sitting there today and I'm like, I don't know that I would pay for another seminar, dude. Because I'm like, I can ask it exactly what any one of my people would do or the people that I follow, and it'll tell me their entire process.
So it's interesting you say that. So it's like, you know how, say 5 years ago, like workout plans and nutrition plans and everything like that, it was a huge thing. Like people were selling them online, so on and so forth. Now, like I'm in the process, I'm training for a half marathon. So I'm like, I just went to ChatGPT and I'm like, what's a training regimen for someone who's whatever, like say the average mile time is this, average 5K time is this. Like what is the regimented training plan in extreme detail to do that? It's 100% free. And I'm like, that it's such a disruption to the industry. And I know some people still want coaches. They need that incentive to move forward. But like you said, it's like you're taking all this knowledge and information and it's basically just aggregating it all together to give you the best of the best.
And I think like the biggest thing with it too is, sometimes I'll just be like in a mental block of how to actually go of where to start something or, whatever it is. And, again, you kind of give it a prompt, like lay out kind of how our days are, we're way too involved in this, want to cut back and it's not enough time to work on that, so I want you to help, craft a schedule or whatever, or, hey, who's the first person that we really need to bring into the team based off of what's, kind of where we're at, what we're trying to get to and all that. And it just starts to open up the book and then you're going through and you get a better understanding of stuff in terms of, okay, I get that. And then now my mind is working because I don't want AI to just be doing all of my thinking. I think that's a dangerous part of stuff is it's going to take, it's like you can tell when you have a write-up for, for a listing that's just AI.
I do that all the time.
Yeah. But you can tell, and that's where, instead of doing that, hey, this is kind of what I want in there, from say past stuff. This is my writing style. Write it as if I'm doing it. So just like simple tweaks in it, because again, it's basically like just having a copywriter for stuff.
Right.
So it's fine, but it's like, I don't want it to do all of my thinking.
Yeah.
I want it to kind of give me the start of that process so that then I can go through and implement, know, hey, but in terms of asking, man, let's just say I want to hire someone.
Yep.
Here's what I'm thinking for their roles. Here's what I'm kind of looking for, whatever. Can you help me write a job posting? Or, hey, based off of where I'm at, what's kind of the average salary or wage that, that is kind of the going rate for stuff, because I might not know exactly what that is for what I'm looking for. So it can kind of give you a little bit of an idea, so it's like we were kind of messing with a bunch of different stuff, and like that prompt was basically, it's someone who you're a billionaire, you've been successful in, real estate for all the way from wholesaling to development of, hundreds of $1 million of development, XYZ. You've owned multiple businesses across, different stuff. You've been successful, in the stock market and all of that. Now help me set a roadmap based off of what you would do, in this same position, and also tell me how you would, kind of set up your company to be tax efficient, because you in your company have the best tax and legal advisors, for whatever. And, just say like, I have an S corp and what would I do for this and the retirement and all of that. Well, here's how you can maximize, boom, 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 boom. It starts giving it. Then you kind of craft from it instead of, well, what should I do to make money in real estate? Well, it's going to tell you.
Yeah, no shit.
It's like you really have to train it to do the stuff. And it's like, dude, that's super powerful. But going back to it, it's like, how does the education system react to it? Because these kids are just
correct.
Again, the lazy ones that don't want to do anything anyway are definitely doing it.
Oh, without a doubt.
But the smart kids are definitely utilizing it. Because why wouldn't you? That's a future of.
I would do. Yeah, exactly. Think if you had access to it when you were younger.
It's like
AI. You do everything.
Yeah, AI is going to rule out a bunch of jobs.
Yeah,
but I think the people that master how to prompt AI to get because anyone can type in, give me tell me how to do this, or give me a write up for that. But if you know how to go through the prompts and stuff, I think those people are going to make money.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be a distinguishing, there's going to be a separation between the quality of anyone and the people that actually know how to do it. But like throwing $190 million at the school system, what is that return going to be? Because
hopefully from some decent citizens. That's what I'm. That's hopeful.
But it's continuously fallen short. I mean, you look at the whole. Dude, let's basically set up the schools so they function the same as a prison would. Well, we have the same level of food service for it, the same type of cafeteria setup, and we're going to make these kids whose minds are going into 1,000 different things a day sit here and have to focus all day on stuff that probably 80-90% of it to most kids really isn't interesting. Like it takes a while to really
but it's a
grasp
government
your
organization.
Yeah,
that's where I come back to. I'm like, it's not a private organization, so like budgets. Like,
they
who
don't
fucking
matter.
cares about the budget?
It's like, not their money.
Yeah,
it's a tax referendum. It's annual increases on everyone. But what I was getting to with the whole thing started.
No,
get off.
No, we probably should actually.
The reason,
yeah.
I think it was a wasted investment.
Yeah,
I think that Oshkosh, or particularly this area, we need to deal with the housing issue. I think first, and what they do is everyone bitches and complains that everything's so expensive, no one can afford to pay rent. Where's all the affordable housing? Well, Derek and I had a good conversation on this the other day. I said they put so much red tape on everything as far as the permitting process, the inspections, all the bullshit,
and it's across the board.
The housing is becoming more dilapidated because they make it so difficult for people to own property from that regard, right? Why would I want to improve my investment if you guys are going to be on my ass every step of the way and make it a pain? And then you're going to point your finger at me like I'm making housing inexpensive. you guys raise the taxes on us. You know, they do the citywide assessments. You pay
Yes.
these crazy rates. It's like, guys, you're squeezing us to have to charge more rent in our stuff. So, I mean,
Well,
And what
there's
do you,
other issues
how
at,
much-
at
how
hand.
much
that
do you-
what do you guys
money
think?
could be.
Like what would then make sense? Is it cut back on all the red tape that's been put up, or is it just, I don't know, like, I don't know what the change needs to be in order for it to be more
yeah.
affordable
You need
for
to make
everybody?
business easier to operate. You know, there's a fine line between people doing a cheap, shitty job.
Mhm.
You know, again, going to like our line of work.
Mhm.
There's a difference between. There's definitely bad investors. There's
Yeah.
bad owners. There's
Yeah.
bad flippers. There's everything. But you lump in everyone into it. So
But
it
how do you
disincentivize-
stop doing that?
Yeah,
Because that's
you know, and that's
what I think is like, okay, deregulation. Then you're going to get people who take advantage of the system, then create a issue for
you pin the liability on them.
how do you do that? Like that's kind of thing. It's like
Yeah.
you tread that fine line of like when Oshkosh was doing rental inspections, and then they got rid of that. But then it's like, well, now there's landlords who don't take care of their shit.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's like now then it creates this whole like the 5% of the population that's absolutely terrible ruins it for 95% of the people. And I think it goes either way. It's like, hey, 5% of the flippers who do a shitty job or hokey work or they're not doing things properly ruins it for 95% of the other people. So the municipality just has to take it to the extreme because
And
they can't take that
understandably.
liability.
Yeah, understandably. And what are they trying to accomplish? Really,
Yeah.
let's take it 1,000 foot
Yeah.
on it. I think what could be productive is collaboration between the city
should be.
and it should be.
Yeah.
Hey,
Mhm.
guys, we've identified there's a need for housing, and these are the people that hold the housing units. How can we work together and get this done? And I think, like you're right, though, there's a balance because as soon as they give someone an inch, they're going to say,
What-
"Oh, deregulate it," and we're going to do
Yeah.
shitty unit turns or unsafe
Mhm.
units,
Yeah.
and then it's not accomplishing what they want.
But what about
yeah.
like tax and what my mind goes to is like tax incentives for doing things properly.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
hey, I have no issue pulling permits.
Yeah, because in that example, hey, you pull a permit for
Yep.
this project, you go through, you get it, and if it's something that you
Yep.
hold for, let's just say 5 years,
Mhm.
at whatever, you're going to get the full tax rate. So
Yep.
let's just say you spend $10,000, you can get, 25% or 30% of that
Mhm.
over 5 years.
Mhm.
That just comes
Yeah.
as a credit off your tax bill. But the only way you're going to get that is by going through the permitting
Yeah.
process. Or say someone that goes through and renovates, there's still certain things that
Yeah.
you go through for permitting, but where there's reasonable flexibility when you've gone through enough and show that the quality of work,
Mhm.
with it, where it's, hey, you do more, it's kind of like a bulk discount. If you're going through and you're doing it, you're showing the quality of work, you're improving, whatever, and you're working with us, whatever. It kind of gets a little bit more grace. So it's, hey,
Yeah.
we know that for X, Y, and Z, this is fine. Oh, you're rerunning electrical or, all new plumbing, whatever.
Yeah.
It's a different story,
Right.
but it's like there has to be a way to incentivize working with us
Mhm.
where the process isn't just so unbelievably slowed down
Yeah.
or tedious and, kind of going through things. But yeah, if you're a longer term owner,
Yeah.
having that where there's credit to it, or whatever, if you're going through, because it's like there's the example of a client that we had that went through and called the city because I guess the basement was finished without a permit when they were going to buy a place, and they said, well, you can pay double the permit cost.
Yeah.
We can't go check anything, but you can pay double the cost.
Jeez.
Well,
sense.
And
Yeah,
and
so
that's
that
just
tell-
idiotic.
that tells
you
It's
what-
not enough.
What they're going after.
Yeah.
Correct.
And so it's like, again, it's not government being efficient only hurts itself
Yeah.
because that means there needs to be less of it.
Mhm.
Government is a business. That's what it is.
But it depends on who people elect as well.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the reality of
Yeah.
it. But on
But
kind of-
ultimately, because
Yeah.
if they go and collect more
Yeah.
money, then they can provide more services. You've noticed
Yeah.
how nice our roads are, right?
oh,
Right.
exactly.
You so it's definitely worth it.
it's amazing.
But
it's
fantastic.
But they go-
truly remarkable.
Yeah.
the
But
condition.
if I go through and I collect more money, and then now we do this
Yeah.
program and it helps, XYZ people, I can brag about that. Oh, we helped
Yeah.
this many more people.
Mhm.
I know.
And then you go through. So it's like there's just such, and I mean, I think you're in a time frame where there's probably some reshuffling
Correct.
of it. You know, regardless, I think there's been kind of a shift to revamp things. You know, and it's like, where's the fine line?
Yeah.
Because some people are always they're never going to want any sort of cut, and there's some people that are never going to want any sort of government involvement. You know, but it's like in terms of doing business, especially locally, you know, and I don't know. They probably, you know, can't do something that would favor a small business over a corporation, whatever. I'm sure there's some, but it's like if you can bring stuff as local as possible and work with them, hey, when you do a shit job, we're going to ride your ass.
Yeah.
When you consistently do a good job, we're going to be a little bit more flexible and work with you. Or, you know, whatever. Or like you said, the tax incentive, because you need to promote people doing work to their job, work to their properties to keep them nice, because then too, in theory, the tax values go up. But hey, you're going to have a credit on this to offset, because we understand the cost going in and do it. You know, it's like,
I know.
There's ways to do it, or, you know, they talk
Let's
about.
switch topics. Like this is just,
this is just the bureaucracy.
I know.
Just driving me nuts.
But it's
Josh,
what I
you're on my-
I'm on your mic. Sorry,
listen.
I'm getting heated.
But what I was gonna say is like in addition to that, so okay, we're currently, what are we at the end of, well, beginning of second quarter of 2025 at the time that we're recording this. Not to date the episode, but regardless, with that, the stock market just took a tumble. Do you guys invest in the markets at all?
Not too much.
A little bit.
Josh?
I have $0 in the market.
Do you? Okay. Why is that? Like what?
I have just been reinvesting everything into myself and into what I know, which is real estate. I have the knowledge of that, and I can sleep a lot better at night knowing what my numbers are on that versus stocks.
And do you, Joe, you said you have a
Yeah.
little bit of money in there? Like
Yeah,
what does
I
that
got-
look like for you?
I got so I have a Roth IRA.
Yep.
Just maxed that out for 2024, and then just like miscellaneous like stocks, some crypto, but yeah, just a little bit kind of everywhere. Nothing like too crazy, nothing super substantial. But that's like one question I've been trying to like answer myself and figure out is it better to be diversified? Like we probably all have been taught, you know, growing up, usually that's what they teach you is, you know, invest in different things, you know, bonds, mutual funds, stocks, like don't go all in at one thing. So I'm like, well, should I just keep all my money for investing in real estate, or do I invest in real estate while at the same time also being diversified and buying some stocks, having Roth IRAs, whatever that may be. And that's where
What would be the point of diversifying?
To be a little less like at risk of like something basically
Of what, though? 'Cause
a
it's
big
like-
downturn. What do you mean?
Like let's say, for example, with Josh and Derek, if they have all their money in real estate and they never plan to sell the real estate, it's like it doesn't matter if the market takes a dip. And that's where I'm like, the diversification, I understand it if you're thinking about retiring, but I think initially, and I would like your guys' opinions on this as well. Like if you want ancillary income streams, yeah, that might be great, but diversifying, taking your eye off the one main thing that you're doing, it's like, I don't think that helps you in the long run, because then you get distracted and you're like, oh, well, I wonder how the crypto's doing today, or the bond market is, or the S&P or the Dow or whatever the case is. Then you're like, okay, now you're worried about it.
Yeah, that's actually a good
I
point.
don't know. I don't like it's. I would like your guys' opinion on that.
Yeah.
One of the things people tend to do, or what I think happens in these markets, is people freak out.
They
get scared.
panic.
Oh yeah.
It just dropped.
The news.
Yeah,
Oh,
fucking
dude, I
dropped
need
crazy.
to get out of the market now, dude.
My
It's
dad.
going. I got to sell.
Yeah.
Well,
See,
today,
that's what I'm
hold
trying
on.
to get back in.
today I think the Dow
hold
is
on.
up like 5%.
Yeah, that's
You know,
exactly.
it's just,
Yeah.
but you know, and part of it, people freak out and think that the stock market is the economy.
Yep.
You know, have you looked at prices for
That's-
appliances?
Yeah.
It has changed $0 from where it
Mhm.
was a month ago. For
Yeah.
I've had one just sitting in the cart for a while just for a package that we got it.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you can see exactly the
Just
same.
sitting there.
And guess
Waiting
what?
for that
The
price to
price
drop.
is exactly
Yeah.
the same.
Yeah, Derek's been checking every
For right
48
now.
hours thing.
I forgot about it
Yeah.
and looked today because I was like, oh, I'm curious.
Yeah.
You know? And, you know, I mean, there's some stuff that I got back in 2008, 2009 that I don't even know where it's at now. I haven't looked at it in years because I don't really care,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't own enough of it
Yeah.
to have any sort of impact. And I think, like to your
Yeah.
point, until you can say take a good portion, max out whatever
Right.
your plan is, whatever, just
Yeah.
have a little, and that's a small portion of it. It's like, it doesn't really matter.
No.
If someone has a job, a W-2 and
Mhm.
it's going in, like, my wife, we max out hers.
Yep.
And the company's match is 100%. Okay,
It's
well,
super smart.
You're getting
Yeah,
4%
exactly.
of your salary added on top
Yeah.
each year. Okay, that's great. Whatever happens with that, go for it.
Yep.
And it's like when I was kind of thinking about just how to set stuff
Yeah.
up, probably do like a solo
Yeah.
401 and be able to kind of do stuff with that. But it's just to have just something else kind of sitting
Mhm.
out there.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a,
And that's like the thing is, I'm not putting a bunch of money like in the stocks or like Roths or anything like that. It's just a couple $1,000 here or there. And
But are you
then-
doing it every
so-
month?
No,
Then
I'm not.
I think that's the issue. Then it's like if you're not dollar cost averaging on a monthly
Well, you
basis or weekly basis, then like you're. I think it's an
because
inefficient model.
in theory, you can max
Yeah.
it out at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And that's when everything's priced the highest.
Correct. Yeah,
potentially.
exactly.
So for that year,
Or you're just
so
not
I think-
buying in all the like right now. Say you bought at the beginning of April or whatever. It's like, hey, you're buying at a huge dip in the market.
Mhm.
Okay, and then you buy in the beginning of May. Maybe the market's a little bit bigger. But if you're like, hey, I'm going to buy in January, then I'll buy in June. You're like, well, you just fucking missed a huge opportunity.
Right,
And that's why I'm
right.
like, I think if you do. Like doing it on a bi-weekly basis or a monthly basis is probably and just
that
throw
is-
in like even if it's a minimal amount of money, if it's $100 every
Mm-hmm.
month or every 2 weeks or something like that, then it's
Yeah.
you're still taking advantage of all the different events that happen throughout the year.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
No,
And then you don't need to think about it.
When you guys invest, what's your end goal with your investments?
make a shit ton of money.
Make a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
How much is a shit ton of money? What is a shit ton of money to you,
See,
Joe?
and that's the thing is, I don't have enough investing. I don't have enough skin in the game, so to speak, like with stocks and stuff, where it's gonna make thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. I guess I shouldn't say thousands, but like tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I guess if anything, right now is just for kind of play in a way. Trying to figure out how to invest in stocks and all that kind of stuff. But I've also like started seeing that maybe it's not as advantageous, like what you three are kind of talking about, where investing in the stocks might not be as useful as if you're to take the same amount of money and invest it in real estate.
Yeah. What is the max for a Roth? Like 56 or
It
did
got
they move
raised
up?
to
I think it's
to
60.
7.
Is it 7?
It's
I was going to say
7,000.
6,500.
So let's say, I think
Yeah.
where you might have been getting at is if you take $7,000
Mhm.
and invest it back into your business, are you going to make more money on that
Oh,
or
without a
less
doubt.
money?
Yeah,
than,
exactly. Yeah.
So I think it depends on where you're at with stuff.
Yeah.
But and it's like I don't mess with buying
Yeah.
individual stocks and
No,
shit
it's-
like that.
Mhm.
Right.
I'll get some ETFs or whatever, some low cost, funds. Then you get a little bit of balance of stuff.
Mhm.
You're going to get some ups, you're going to get some downs. Things, again, it basically balances out. Now, I got some of that stuff obviously when things were not
Yeah.
good in the stock
Mhm.
market. So I'm sure it's good, but if it's
Yeah.
a small amount, I think it's like
Yeah.
$1,000 that
Yeah.
was in there. So I don't
Mhm.
know.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a balance of, I think, when you're in a growth point,
Yeah.
because would you rather have, say, 5,000 that you were going to put into something and it's your first few years of kind of ramping
Mhm.
up
Mhm.
to have 5,000 accessible to you to go into marketing
Yeah.
or to just having a reserve fund, whatever, might be a little bit more beneficial
Than
versus
being in the stock market.
now putting $5,000 out of say $100,000 or $200,000 into something. It's a negligible amount at that point.
Yeah.
But then you can start to stockpile that, and over 20, 30 years,
Mhm.
You'll probably end up doing all right on it.
Mhm.
But it's something that I think you need to just set for 20, 30 years down
Correct.
the road.
That's
And-
exactly
and
it.
don't even
I would agree.
like he had said, hey, say every week or every other week you're putting in $100 and
Yeah.
it just automatically goes in.
Something that you don't
Yeah,
even
you
notice.
just
and
forget.
don't
Like,
see it.
exactly.
The only time you see it is whatever the
Yeah. The statement comes out or
capital
something.
gain
Yeah.
or the
Yeah.
dividend, whatever
Yeah.
it is at the end of the year when you have to go, oh, hi,
It's a bonus.
It-
Anything
exactly.
that you put in is a bonus. And the reason I asked that question,
Yeah.
it's a dumb question. Everyone knows
What?
why they invest. They want to have a retirement. They want to have a future.
Yeah.
The reason I specifically asked you guys what you want to invest in is
Yeah.
because I think stocks are great for a few reasons.
Yeah.
I think they're very liquid, or they're a lot more liquid. I can't, if I needed to sell my shit tomorrow, there's no way I can liquid that cash.
Yeah.
It's just not possible. So my hands are tied in a way. You have that liquidity, which is nice. But if you're just an average person, right?
Yep.
You're a 9-to-5 person. You have no idea about real estate.
Yep.
You have no idea about the markets. We're specialized to where we understand that sector.
Yep.
We understand that we can produce certain returns, certain cash on cash with a deal. We can underwrite a deal.
Yep.
So when you know those things, it's a lot harder for you to justify basically gambling your money in the stock market when you say, oh yeah, it could go up. You know, S&P is averaging what, 7% annually for the last however many years?
20 years.
Yeah.
20 years, right?
30 years.
I think it's what your investment goals are for your future. Like for me personally, I'm trying to acquire as many properties and pay them off. And then you have your war chest. If shit hits the fan in the future, I have a property that if I don't even collect rent, I own it free and clear. Like it is what it is. You can sit there like a paperweight.
Has your opinion changed on that? Like
versus
for sure. Having the debt versus,
Yeah.
I know we've had conversations
Yeah,
on that
say.
before. And that's where I'm like, I would rather own a entire portfolio free and clear versus having it leveraged to the hilt all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
And it's in the basic reasoning why, at least in my mind, is you can keep re-leveraging the portfolio and take out tax-free money, whatever the case might be. But you always are responsible to pay someone. And if something happens or you die or whatever the case is and the portfolio takes a turn for the worse, it's like, well, now you're opened up to giving all the properties back or whatever the scenario is.
Right. There's a good story on this that made me change my mind. So I was sitting down. I am very interested about financing and about different things. I sat down with the commercial lender for like 3 hours and I asked him, I said, open up my books, open up all my financials. I showed him, here's my portfolio size. Here's what I've got for liquidity on it. Like, how does this look compared to other investors that you see? Just really wanted to like get an idea of if I'm doing it right or if I'm like,
if I'm balling or
if I'm like, you need more cash on hand, right? Just because they see it. So I sat down with him and he said, so who do you think's better off? The person that's got a $70 million real estate portfolio that every 5 years they re-leverage, they keep their same 20% equity in it, and they'll just continue to cash it out. Or the person that owns, say, $5 million or whatever, 100 units free and clear. They have no liability. They have no risk.
I know.
Their note's not getting called. They're not going to get folded up on it. He's like, you want to be in a position where the bank wants to work with you. You don't need to be the guy that, you're sitting on hardly any cash.
Correct.
Shit hits the fan. Guess what? Your $70 million portfolio is toast. And I think that's where kind of the greed aspect for some people, they want to keep going up and up and up. It's
And
like
growing.
which is fine. It's fine to grow, but there's a limit where it's like, I'm not going to expose myself to a ton of risk. If I get to a certain point, I want to be able to enjoy that and not.
Right.
Yeah. My philosophy is, kind of shifted a little bit with that.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, if you're going through as the market upswings, if you refi, is try to take every time you go to the bank, take 10% off the leverage. Hey, I started out.
What do you mean by that? Just
so let's say you go in, you buy it, and you finance the 80%.
Okay.
You go through, you do some improvements to it, and you end up refinancing. Just pull back that original amount, and maybe you can get some. It depends, kind of where the market's at. But then try to go to 70% leverage.
I agree.
And then if you go down later, try to go to 60%. Where you're able to kind of pull it out because naturally over time, in theory, let's just
Values
assume
increase.
commercial loan, 5-year note, whatever. Sometimes that's not going to be the case, but I kind of look at it where how can we trim, 5 to 10% off? But I would look at, again, down the road is you kind of have your war chest, like you had said, have some properties that are free and clear. They're probably your best assets. And maybe when you sell some stuff, instead of putting it into something else, say for every 2 properties you sell, you put the profits from one into it.
Think how quick you would pay down properties.
Yeah.
Like realistically, if you're doing that and you don't have any other, like that's where I'm like, if you're an individual person operating a business and it's like, okay, now you don't have payroll or salaries or whatever you need to pay. It's just you. It's like you do 3 flips in a year, you could have a property free and clear.
Or say you have 100 units, right?
Yeah.
You have 100 units that are $1,000 a month rent. You got $100,000 a month in income, right? It's 50% expenses. You could say 50. It's probably a little bit less than that. It could be 40. You've got between $50,000 and $60,000 a month coming in on that. And people are going to argue and say, well, you're going to pay taxes on it. I would much rather pay tax and have the the luxury to be able to go to bed at night
Yeah.
and not worry about freaking
Yeah,
owing a ton of money to the bank
Yeah.
or like, I don't know. It's
guy's
just-
talking about, you know, a referendum going through, and then now he's going, yeah, no, I'd pay that tax any day of the week.
Dude, I will pay
When you're making that
He's,
much, it's
he's
probably
saying
not-
income tax,
Yeah.
not
income
property
tax,
tax.
not property tax. That's
Yeah.
wasted money.
But yeah,
Cities can get fucked for that.
Yeah.
you know, again, I would look at, you know, trying to get your
Yeah.
best assets free and clear, kind of pick out
Yeah.
the stuff that, hey,
Yeah.
I'll own this forever, basically.
Mhm.
If one of those comes across your plate, and you know that you're going to have to replace the roof, you're going to have to do the stuff over time, right? You're planning to have it 20, 30 years or pass it along,
Right.
you know, whatever it might be. It's like, yeah, say you can, perfect world, you can go and get $5 to $10 million worth of stuff over the next 20, 25 years that's paid free and clear.
That's
Right.
fucking nuts.
Or at least like
You're
paying
in a
off
position.
paying off like whatever interest rates are the highest for whichever property,
Oh,
like
yeah.
getting those paid off
Yeah,
quicker
because
than
do you
the
think-
other ones, because that's going to save you a lot, save you a lot more money there too.
Yeah, because it's like, okay, say you had $5 million,
Yep.
that's just sitting there, and you find a property that's, say, $3 million, and you're able to go from a line of
Oh,
credit
exactly,
or
yeah.
do a 20%, you know, basically
Yep.
across the portfolio or whatever. Obviously, you would probably just pick a property,
Yeah.
kind of pull some out of a couple of them, whatever, and then you can own that one 50% leverage. You're still incredibly secure on it.
Well, and think of all the income coming in from those other assets. That it's like, okay, well, yeah, I
Paid it right back
re-levered
off.
at $2 million, but
Mhm.
I'll have this paid off in a matter of 2 years' time.
Yeah.
It's like,
Because
holy
again,
shit.
If you like, right, the point is,
Yeah.
point to do all this is to have a good life.
Yeah.
Right. And
I would
you know,
agree.
probably do something that's going to leave something behind, you know, do some good, right? If you're getting 50 to 60 grand a month coming in, if you took 30 of that to pay down that
Yeah.
new note as quick as possible, assuming no prepay, or
Yeah.
even so, if you had a couple
Yeah.
percent prepay on it,
Right.
oh,
It doesn't
big
matter.
whoop.
Yeah, who
At that,
cares?
oh no, one more month of, you know, dropping 20 grand.
Yep.
Oh,
Mhm.
End of the world for me. But going through and doing that, you're probably still going to have a really good life at 30 grand a month in today's money.
100%.
That'd be nuts.
You know,
Yeah.
Around
It's like
30,
what-
that's
so-
plenty of money.
Yeah.
That's plenty of money.
I'm like,
And
when I
then-
think about that,
and
I'm
then
like,
you add another
we don't
$3
need that
million
much.
of real
Yeah.
estate that you
Yeah.
own free and clear.
Mhm.
You know, so it's like kind of looking at that aspect. Like there's some big things that I wanna do, and something
Yeah.
that's gonna take a lot of leverage, right? But it depends on where you're at.
Yep.
And when you're trying to build, yeah, absolutely. I think you kind of have to. Don't over leverage across the board on everything.
Yeah.
Try to have as much equity as you can to keep growing into
Right.
something, and or be able to really force that equity to,
Mhm.
hey, I might be going in, you know, let's just say have some creative financing,
Yeah.
whatever, and yeah, maybe you are at 95% leverage. Boy, that's tight.
Yeah.
But by the end of a year, you can be at realistically 80%.
Mhm.
Okay. You know, like it's all balancing risk,
Right.
but I
Yeah.
think early on you have to take more risk. And as you go is kind of start
Yeah.
setting up that war
Mhm.
chest.
That is interesting. And
Yeah.
it's unique. We were talking with Mike Toddy. He came in the
Yeah.
other day. That was awesome. It was
He's
phenomenal
good shit.
conversation.
Yeah,
Yeah, he is.
he is.
Yeah.
Well,
He
yesterday
is.
he was in here, I think.
Yeah.
But we
Did
were
he bring
just-
the cow?
No,
No.
he didn't.
Oh,
That's what I was
dang,
talking to him about.
unfortunately.
But we were just going through things, and he's like, it's just how your perspective changes from even say 20 years old to 25 to 30 to 35 to like you learn so much, you grow as a person. Then you're like, okay, well, what's actually important? And the fact is, like, yeah, real estate's huge. It's a part of all of our lives.
Mhm.
But what are we even doing it for? And that's kind of the conversation that I had with myself like a month or so ago. It's like, okay, I understand wanting to grow the business and actually growing the business and acquiring properties and everything like that. But
Making
what is
quick
the
money?
exactly like what's the point of all of this? And then you're just having those difficult conversations and trying to figure it out. Because for me, it's going to be different than what it is for Joe or
Correct.
Derek or Josh or whatever the case is. So I don't know. It's I think an important question to ask yourself
Mm-hmm.
and figure it out. And you don't really like I'm running through like a goal sheet of what's the maximum dollar or if we made this much money on a monthly basis, like free and clear, to live the best lifestyle ever in Wisconsin, it's not a whole lot of money. Like realistic, like compared to what some people make,
Mm-hmm.
it's you don't need to make that much money.
Yeah.
like if you're making 50 grand a month in Wisconsin, you're living,
Dude, you're living-
you're living a baller
you
lifestyle.
You could live on 100 and live
Oh yeah.
phenomenally.
Oh,
on
it would be
100.
insane. It would be
Right.
insane.
And then you invest the other 500.
I know.
Or what do you say? 500
Yeah.
or 600?
yeah.
So
600.
yeah, so you
it's like-
invest whatever post tax.
I know.
You still can invest $250,000 a year.
yeah.
Mhm.
It would be
I mean,
nuts.
realistically, around here for pretty comfortable
Yeah.
lifestyle, $5 to $6 grand, in that.
Oh,
is,
yeah,
like,
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
You're probably doing
I know,
pretty
it's,
good if that's
yeah.
what's allocated. So you think
Yeah.
about that, 10 grand after, after accounting for
Yeah.
tax, so 10 grand in profit each month. True.
Oh, it's freaking nuts.
That's-
You have another 50 that's going
Yeah.
to the stuff,
Mhm.
whatever. But yeah, if you want to really keep scaling,
Yeah.
put
Mhm.
put money into profit, obviously. But it's like, yeah, 120 grand a year gets you a pretty comfortable.
Oh, especially if you're not working, like
Yeah.
if you're not physically like going out there and grinding for that,
Yeah.
Mhm.
it's just investment money.
Well, that's the thing. Like we were kind of talking about of, when you get to a point to bring people into the
Yeah.
company to take over, let's just say like a project management aspect. If you had to spend the money on that, but the time opened up to be able to go find a few more deals, it's probably going to more than pay for that,
Mhm.
Mhm.
depending on what it is. But you have to swallow the pill. But would you rather make this much money and be spending 10, 20 hours a week, or make this much money and be spending 50 to 60 hours?
Mhm.
I'll take that.
Yeah, no shit.
It's
Yeah.
like
You're buying
again,
your time back,
the-
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I
Mhm.
think it changes because when I was a little bit younger, well,
Oh,
I'm
man.
old.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
man.
am.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm gonna be 35 this year. Dude, I
Hey,
woke up
he's
this
old
morning.
school.
I must have just slept weird. No. But it's like I wanted to go through and syndicate all these deals and have thousands of units.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn, thinking about that now, and like, I just want a really good collection
Yeah.
of stuff.
I want to know. Yeah.
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 And I want
Yes.
as few people as possible to answer to.
Dude, that is
I know,
just
that's-
such a powerful.
But it is.
I
That's
don't-
That is.
why does it, when you're younger, why is it that it's like, okay. And I think it's you're mesmerized by all these people that are doing all these things. It's like, oh, well, they're doing it. I can do it.
Yeah.
But I literally, like, I want to try and figure out a way that you can deal with the easiest possible tenants who don't call you or bitch and complain or whatever the case is, or you can
Right.
outsource that and make life as simple as possible.
Yeah.
And I mean, like for me, the most stressful projects that
Yeah.
we have going on are the ones that we're partnering with other people on because
Very
their
true.
their money comes first.
Yep.
Yep.
My money is secondary to it. You're thinking about, oh, got to make sure that this
I
is
know.
going. And a lot of times it's fine. But those are the ones that just add
But
more stress because there's some people that could
Yeah.
care less about that
Mhm.
and they shouldn't be in the business.
Yep.
And that's not me. So I'll be laying in bed at night going, man, I really got to get that filled. I got to,
Yeah.
that's exactly it. And
Let all my frustrations.
block out. But yeah, so having that where instead, it's like going to, jeez, dude, what is in you this week? But like having less people to have to answer to,
Mhm.
having a better caliber of people that you work with. So again, whether it's tenant base,
Yeah.
whether it's the vendors that you work, whatever it is, and that's why for part of it is like for me is going into new development. That's kind of something that's down the road for it. And yeah, I would probably go, build projects, whatever, sell them on, depending on
Yep.
what it is.
Mhm.
Some might be mixed use, some might just be residential, whatever, but take it and then have, like I had said, a couple of them, maybe it's one a year, maybe it's a couple a year that you basically just try to get as low leverage as possible because you take the stuff from here, roll it in
Mhm.
and just start building up that stockpile that is professionally managed
Yep.
because I'm not dealing with that.
Right.
I've served my time.
I agree.
I am serving
Storage
my
units.
time.
Yeah.
still.
Storage units are a
Veteran.
nightmare.
But just in general,
Yeah.
like, on the housing side of things, like, yeah, that it's something that, it doesn't align for the long
Yeah.
term for it. It's
Mhm.
like, yeah, right now it's just that's part of what it is, but setting things up to achieve where you want to be in
Yeah.
5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years.
Mhm.
Yep.
Sometimes you just have to eat it at the
Yeah.
time and you got to get it done and you got to do, we were talking about it. It's like, as much as some stuff sucks at times, the rules of the game are the rules.
Yeah.
You're not
Mhm.
going to get around it.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
You have to
Yes.
suck it up and deal with it, do it. And then,
Until you
Go
can
from
afford
Exactly.
to pay someone else to do the job that you're not enjoying
Yeah.
or just takes a lot of time,
Yeah.
like that's where buying back your time comes in place.
And that's the thing, you can't have an ego about it, like, oh, I'm too good to manage
Right,
stuff.
right.
Yep.
Well, is it financially going to make sense for you to pay
No
someone?
shit.
No. Well, guess what? You're not too good for
Mhm.
it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So go
When you get
figure it
taken
out.
advantage of. If you don't
Yeah.
do it yourself, like a lot of the
Oh.
time is everything.
Yep.
But like you just get absolutely fucked. Whether
Mhm.
it's on like hiring a company to do marketing or whatever, it's like, okay, I'm getting shafted on this side. We're paying $3,500 a month for someone to do this when it takes them 2 hours of time.
Mhm.
It's like, well, is my time worth that? Yes, no, maybe. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you do have to go through some of the difficulties to learn from it and then either put the right people in the places or the systems in the places or whatever and just grow.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I don't-
I think you need to experience it. You need to do it
Mhm.
to understand what goes into it
Yeah.
to better justify and negotiate with stuff later, or understand the cost. It's just like doing stuff around the house. Sometimes you got to go do all of X, whatever. Let's just say trim work
Yeah.
or painting everything to understand and appreciate and kind of know what goes into
Yeah.
it for
Mhm.
when you're talking to a vendor
Yeah.
about it.
What do
So
you-
working on and having to do this stuff, while it might suck at the time, I think is super beneficial in
Yeah.
the long run.
What are you guys looking to take off your plate right now? Like, is there something that you're actively
That is a
like,
good
hey,
question.
I cannot stand doing this, or something that both of you do, and it can be individually as well. They're like, okay, we're finding someone, or this is what we're looking to hire at some point in the future.
Yep. So we had our little meeting this morning, the coffee shop.
Powwow.
Powwow.
Wow.
Planet Perk Powwow.
Okay.
And just project management and office.
Oh, you guys don't like that?
office stuff.
You don't like the project
Dude,
management?
you know what's crazy is
I could have told you that.
I was sitting there and asking the AI all these questions or whatever,
Yeah.
and it going through and it's saying, what are your current roles? What do you all do? So I listed it out. It was acquisitions, dispositions, project management, partially finishing some of the projects, going on site to finish
Mhm.
projects,
Mhm.
scheduling contractors,
Marketing,
marketing,
Yep.
ordering material, fulfillment,
relationship
relationship management.
Finances.
I had 10 things. I
Yeah.
asked it and I said, what's the biggest problem? And it basically said, you're spreading yourself too thin.
Yeah.
It said, the bottleneck in the business is you. And
Mhm.
we talked 3 months ago
Yeah.
about this. I'm waiting for a couple of checks to cash so I can hire some people.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's very true.
Yeah, so it's twofold. Like this year, admin, and
Yep.
that's more of like a part-time
Yeah.
deal. It's not, for relationship management, bill pay, just kind of
Yep.
taking care of that stuff, and a project manager. And it's like there's someone I would really like to do that, but very resistant to it. So
Who's
might have to
that?
keep working on it. Just someone I know.
Okay.
He's an absolute legend.
Yeah.
in this game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, would love
Yeah.
that. But it's getting that role. And like for me, the biggest thing is going to be relinquishing control, because
Yeah.
as much as I complain
tough.
about having
That's
to do
tough.
everything,
Yeah, that is true.
and we were saying it, if I can hire someone that can do it 90% of the way that I would do it right
Mm.
now, and just have to train them up on, what our standards, our process might be,
Mhm.
whatever, odds are, if that's what they do and this is their, the business that they're most familiar in is the construction side of things, odds are in a matter of time, once they're familiar with our process and procedure, they're going to be doing a far better job than I'm doing it at currently.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But dang it, letting go of control right away,
Yeah.
it's just going to be like,
Oh,
about
it's
you
so
guys?
difficult. I think there's a lot of administrative tasks
Mm-hmm.
that take up time. And it, like right now, my main focus is like I've been documenting a lot of stuff, like just in I don't know, just because. And then we've been putting people or virtual employees in the right spots to help out with that. But now for me, it's getting rid of the storage unit management and having a virtual assistant help with all of that. So then it's like, okay, that's off my plate. Don't need to necessarily worry about that, or can get reports, and then having virtual assistants help with the bookkeeping and everything, just so we know our numbers more. But then I think when you guys talk about project management, I'm like, well, there's difficult conversations that need to be had, but then there's also the fact, for example, for us, what I'm anticipating is for every single project, we need to know, and we don't know this right now, but we need to know the numbers to the point of, okay, flooring is this, kitchen costs, okay, labor bills, was there overages on expenses or whatever the case is.
Mm-hmm.
Where are we at budget-wise throughout the entire project? When is money being spent? why is this extra money being spent when it should have been done here? Like we need to know all those different metrics, especially if we're looking at making things more efficient. And we just don't know that. So that's again another like, how do I put that process in place to stop that?
Really auditing.
Yeah, you
yourself.
have to
And
audit
like,
everything.
That's like
literally
us.
the entire
We
business.
had a couple projects that we were kind of budgeting.
Yeah.
Where we were sitting at. We did add do a little bit extra on a couple. Some stuff came up, whatever, to be expected. But we're like, standard flip without major stuff going on. 40 grand.
Yeah.
Where I was like, ooh,
Dang.
that could be 32 to 35.
Yeah.
No, it's 40 grand. That's what it ends up being. So it's like just
fair.
Just right for that.
Yep.
And
It's like you're not remodeling a house for
Yeah.
realistically under 30 nowadays.
Yeah, it's tough.
Even if you
I'm
do
not-
just paint, flooring,
Paint,
kitchen,
yeah, I know.
countertops.
Like it's like
appliances,
it's 30 grand. Like it
baseline.
yeah, I know. That's where I'm like,
And you just run into shit that just comes out of nowhere, and you're like, okay, now I had to throw another $5,000 into here because of something going on.
Well, and it's like too, you'll give yourself the benefit of the doubt when you're underwriting. You're like, oh, dude,
I know.
I'm
you
high.
always fuck with
I'm,
the number.
I'm fucking
Oh.
high. I'm at 45, dude. This is gonna easily come in at like
I know.
35. I'm gonna be pumped.
Yep.
You're in that bitch
Yeah.
at like 48.
Yeah.
You're like, damn it, what
I know.
happened?
And like for me, going through, we'd have like a 15% buffer on it. So it's like, it fell within,
Which is pretty good. Like that's
it falls
more
it-
generous.
It falls
than what
within,
we do.
it falls within the realm. But
Yeah.
part of it too is, changing a little bit for what we do, and like going through that's, like on the one, we were probably hovering around like that 30 to 32 range.
Yep.
Ended up doing windows. You end up doing stone countertops. You end up tiling the surround and the backsplash. It's like all of a sudden, those things I think make a big difference.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, you can do just a cheap laminate off the shelf countertop and whatever.
But it doesn't set it apart.
Yeah, you're
No.
gonna.
It's a fucking
It's a
cookie.
flip.
Yeah,
It's a
it
flip.
looks like a
And that's it. And that's like, with say if something's a rental, it's different versus when you're going through. And that's the thing, like, when people hear flipper, they just think the same, it's just you're covering up
Bare
stuff,
bones.
whatever.
Yep, stick
And there's
on
a
a pig.
difference. There's a difference between, that style, which we all flip here. But it's more so we renovate homes.
Yeah.
Like there's a
improve community.
Yeah.
Dude, we
Whatever.
changed
but
our philosophy on
Yeah.
this, and I'll go on first.
and it sounds kind of corny and stuff, but it's like, no, I'm not taking a piece of printer paper and painting it over a hole in the wall, where there's a plumbing line with a leak going right next to the electrical wire. Like I'm not doing that, but it's like doing the things of, these windows could be fine.
Just replace them.
Damn.
Yeah.
But
You're always better off.
how
replacing
do
the shit.
I want my reputation on the back end?
I know.
Because reputation is far more valuable than money.
Yep.
And the people that don't get it, I think I was listening to one of your podcasts, well, something with the wholesale.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
the
yeah,
recent
yeah.
one. Yeah, recent one we just
Dude,
dropped. Isn't that insane?
Reputation
That scenario?
over money.
I didn't hear the story.
They fucking price dropped the owner. They were making I don't know if it was 30 or 20,000. I think it was a $30,000 assignment is what they were set to make.
Oh, yeah.
You guys were buying it?
No, it's
No.
one of my buddies.
Okay. Yeah.
But then so he had a $30,000 assignment locked in. He goes back to the owner, price drops him another $20,000.
Makes 50.
Makes 50.
Okay. Yeah.
That's
I was a little backwards.
Yeah.
I thought he was like at 10 and
No.
then made 30.
No,
or
he was at
No.
30 and
He was
then
already
made
at 30.
50.
Okay.
Because at first
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck?
Admittedly, I was
Yeah.
half listening to it while I was working, but I was listening. I
He
got
was
two of
working
you.
all right.
Yeah.
But yeah.
You can't have that sound covering up. No, you gotta get the full blast. But yeah, it's dude, like that's the thing, and you're not gonna say obviously who it is on here.
I don't even know the guy's name.
Yeah.
If I mean, I know who's buying it, but I don't know
Yeah.
the guy's name.
Yeah, but it's like
who's doing it.
But I bet
Yeah.
if his name comes up
Exactly.
and someone asks, "Hey,
Hey,
have you
that's
ever
huge.
dealt with them?"
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, dude,
That's huge.
I'd watch out.
Yep.
know.
And that can kill it. Kill
Yeah.
that whole, and that's the thing.
It'll
But-
kill your
but
in the
that-
long run.
Mm-hmm.
But that's who puts a bad reputation
Yeah.
in the name.
Is short-term thinking.
Yeah,
I think is what that is.
And like you had said, is there's great wholesalers,
Yep.
ethical,
Yep.
that go through the stuff, and there's people who are just pieces of shit
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
that will
Yeah.
try to screw over anyone. The,
Mhm.
the one where the guy who subject to scamming
Yeah.
next Friday.
Yeah.
Closing. I could have easily talked him down 20, 30 grand, and he would have taken it.
Yeah.
because he's desperate, in the
But
situation.
it's like you have to do the right thing.
And you have a
Because-
conscience. You have,
Yeah.
you have
Right. I know.
things to
Yeah.
answer to.
And
again,
I told him kind of where my numbers, and I walked him through.
Mhm.
Hey, I have to put this into it. I'm going to have this sales expense.
Yeah.
This is the profit that we have to make. I am going to make money on the back end unless there's something in here that I don't know about
Yeah.
and it comes up. This is the best that I can do. If we were, if I were to list it on the market, this is where I would comfortably list it at. But here's what the costs are going to be.
Yeah.
Negligible price difference. But I could have gone, it's like you could do it.
But do you
Have
want
fun
to?
sleeping
Yeah.
at night and enjoy that coming back at you.
I know.
It's
I
not
don't
the
like
right
that
thing
at
to
all.
do.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
the thing that's just frustrating. It's so, we're still going to do well
Yeah.
on it.
What, Josh, talk to, because we'll end the podcast after this, but talk to the fact of, like what you guys are doing on the remodel side. Because I know you hinted at it before as far as quality and everything like that.
So if you look at every business
Yep.
out there that really makes money, every business that really does exceptionally well,
Yep.
they try their hardest to make the customer experience the best they can. You look at Amazon, their deliveries, the way that these companies take care of their customers. Your service has to benefit the end buyer.
Mhm.
That is who is buying that product from you in the end. So it doesn't matter how much money you make always. It matters what you're delivering back to the market. What value are you creating? And like that's where our price went up from 30 to 40 grand. Because we're like, you know what, dude, there's certain cases in a job, any project, you're going to open, you're going to get in the house and say, fuck, this is a little bit more hack than what I thought. You have those opportunities in the project to just say, could I just Band-Aid fix this thing or just get it looking halfway decent and we'll sell it. It's fucked up. Like not anything that's major and you address major stuff. But we just said, you know what? I would rather make less money and deliver a product that I'm proud of, that I can feel good and basically that I know I could move myself into, a family member into, and know that they'd be taken care of. That is creating value. And I think when you put good things out into the world, good things come to you. When you have that abundance and say, you know what, dude, I don't need to make a ton of money on this project. I think just the fact of us going through and improving communities.
Yeah.
It really does. I mean, dude, how many times have you guys flipped a house? You go in the neighborhood and you have the neighbors coming up and saying,
Oh,
dude,
exactly.
Yeah.
I'm so thankful that you're doing this.
Well, and even so, I think that's extremely, extremely valid.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the approach that we've shifted to as well, because it's like your name's on it, but then even the agents on the other side, like they see the quality product and being easy to, like we just got an offer on a property, but being easy to work with. It's like, hey, we saw this, and this. Could this get taken care of? It's like, yeah, that's not a problem. If the buyer wants that taken care of, we'll get it done prior to closing. It's not a big deal whatsoever. We don't want them to move into a shitty house just because, like, we want whatever the scenario is. Just we don't want to do something. But I don't know. I think that's more than valid, and you're making a difference, whether you know it or not, or whether you see it firsthand or not. It's like it has a branching effect to it.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, let's wrap it there.
Yeah.
Appreciate you guys stopping in.
Yeah.
If you guys enjoyed the show, hit the like and subscribe button. We'll catch you in the next one.